Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome back to my podcast. The name is going to change here soon, so maybe we should just go ahead and do it. I'm not sure. We're currently in the morning mood, and we will be switching to supply chain wake up. It's the new brand.
Yeah,
What do you think, Thorsten? First one to hear it.
yeah, absolutely, right,
All right,
so
you like it?
yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
We're back for another across the pond discussion on what is going on with logistics and supply chain in the EU. We're coming up on the holidays, as we were just talking about. Christmas decorations are out. People are starting to buy and plan. Amazon Prime days are right around the corner, which is always a signal that the holidays are right here. So, what are you seeing over there?
Yeah, so actually, you know what actually when I thought to talk about the staffing shortage
Yeah.
in supply chain or logistics, actually, I didn't even, that wasn't even prompted by Christmas. But of course, absolutely, the holiday season will obviously, well, magnify labor shortage and staffing shortage, and especially supply chain and logistics. It will magnify it tremendously, right?
It will.
Even without the holiday period, right? I've seen that all throughout this year, which is what I thought, like, it's good to talk about this. All throughout this year, there is major staffing shortages, and it's all
Yeah.
levels, right? It's not just whatever your forklift drivers or people who stuff containers or sort parcels in fulfillment centers and so on. It's the people in the offices, in control towers, and of course
Interesting.
the technology people, and so on. It's everywhere, right?
Wow.
And it's actually, if you like, created some stuff that actually I'd never heard of before, right? So for example, can I ask you, would you like to become an e-resident of a country? Right? It's like, so what that is, as the terminology might suggest, you're a resident, but you're not, right? Or you don't need to be a resident to be a resident, right? So um, it's actually something. You can do this in, for example, Estonia.
So you're a
You can,
resident, but you're not a resident, and that allows you to work in the
yeah.
country?
So obviously, normally, to have a residency anywhere, you need to have a job, you need to have a place
Yeah.
where you live, and so on. So these, if you like, minor complications of having to have a job and a place to stay, easy residence gets rid of those, right?
Wow.
So you can become a resident and do work for, or say, a company, in this case, Estonia,
Okay.
but you don't need to be in Estonia. You don't need to have an address, etc., etc., right?
Yeah.
But you're treated as a tax-wise and so on.
So you pay taxes in that country. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like as if you were, right, and you have a work permit and blah 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 and so on, right?
Wow.
So, and I think that shows actually how desperate the situation is, right? To create stuff that actually, well, no one ever thought about, right? I mean,
Incentivizes someone to work without you. So basically, you don't have to move. You can be a quasi-resident of another country, never have to move, have a job there, pay taxes there, actually be a resident of that country and not actually be there. It's
yeah,
actually pretty smart if you think about it, because it's one of the biggest complaints countries have, right? When their labor force goes and works in another country, they don't pay taxes, or they don't pay taxes in the country that they live in, and they may not pay taxes in the country that they're working in, and it's a bit of a tax loophole. So it's very smart that they did that. I would love to think that they did that to help people work more, but I'm pretty sure they did that so they could get taxes.
maybe, right? So,
All right, so
um,
interesting. So we're coming up with these new things so that we can get more people working in supply chain.
yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
and the other thing is kind of that's a more established thing. Is obviously the digital
Nomad.
nomad visa. That's not really brand new. That's not new, right?
Yeah.
But more and more countries are signing up to this, right? So, I don't think you can do this in the US.
We can't do anything here. What are you talking about?
Oh, look, so come on, right? But hey, your neighbors, Canada and
Canada can
Mexico,
do it.
they can do it, right? So,
Yeah.
but maybe you should be an e-resident in the US, so you and do the digital nomad stuff
And do the
in
digital nomad
Canada and
thing.
Mexico. There you go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so there's a lot of that going on, right? The situation for the supply chain logistics industry is not made any easier by just kind of when you have whatever research or statistics, right? So like, I read somewhere recently that about 50% of people who work in logistics and supply chain, and that goes across all levels, like from very junior to senior, 50% would not go back into supply chain and logistics if they whatever found another job, lost the job, and so on. And I think that's huge.
Interesting. That's
That's huge,
fascinating.
right? And the reason given by most people who say that is burnout and burnout, right?
Burnout.
Stress, burnout, and so on, right? Now,
Yeah.
to be fair, I don't have as yet actually numbers from other industries, right? So
Yeah. How to compare
I don't know whether, like, for example, retail is even worse or something like, I don't know,
medical.
right?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
But I think 50% is a big enough number to pay
It's really big.
attention anyway, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting. Well, one, I'm curious about what that says about us since we stayed. Like, are we crazy and they're not? Like, because we're the 50% that didn't quit. So what does it say? I'm a little worried about what that says about us.
Yeah,
But but yeah, but
yeah.
supply
So
chain is not for everybody. Supply chain and logistics is not cut out for everyone.
no,
It's a very, it is I would say it is one of the more high stress jobs out there. And a lot of the reason it's high stress is because you have very little control. Because you have a lot of people doing stuff for you and on your behalf. And if they don't perform, you don't perform.
yeah,
And I know, like, for me, that was always my biggest stressor in running a supply chain, was that trying to be ahead of everyone, predicting what was going to go wrong, just so I could avoid anything happening and keep my partners happy. Like, that's the biggest piece. If you have happy partners, you have a good supply chain.
yeah.
And so anything you can do to make their lives easier certainly pays off. But yeah, it's not for everyone. I'm going to be honest. Like, I was a little bit surprised when you said 50% of the people got out of it. But now that I think about it, I'd say that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. And if you think about it, as we talk about it, I'm thinking about, right. So, for example, when I was at Amazon and I was responsible for the performance of all the parcel carriers in Europe, right? And that's a lot of carriers, right?
A lot of packages.
A lot, and therefore a lot of people, a lot of hubs, a lot of equipment, and therefore a lot of things that can go wrong,
Yeah.
right? And then going back to the holiday season coming up, right?
Yes.
I remember, so actually, I don't know how I did it at the time, right? Because I was kind of just nonstop, right? Because
I don't know how we did it either. I
uh,
look back on the crap that we did back then and I was like, how did I work like 15 hours a day?
yeah,
Like, honest, 15 working, actual working on the computer 15 hours a day. Like, not like a break in between or whatever. Like, I don't know how we did it. I don't know how we
yeah,
did it. But I think, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was talking to Alicia, who we do the Inner Edge conference on. And this is what she said. She said, we never really burned out. Well, we did burn out in the end, but we didn't burn out in the middle because we were excited about what we were doing. And we
yeah,
were building so much amazing stuff. And we had no leash, right? There was no they were just like, just don't fuck it up. And we were excited about it. And we got to build stuff and we got really excited about it. And I think when you and I started to feel what we call burnout is when we got bored, is really what it is.
yeah. I
Because
mean, probably. I still say to this day, right? If you don't love this job or industry, just stay away,
don't do it.
right? Because it will just kill you, right?
It
And that's
will.
probably true for a number of other industries as well,
Yeah.
right? But to kind of, yeah, definitely. So I only know this industry, right?
Yeah. So do
I
I.
don't want to know any other industry anyway. That's,
I don't
right.
know. I
So,
excelled in it. It's the only industry I know. It's not the industry I thought I would, like you. It's not the industry I thought I would be in. I didn't go to school to say I wanted to be a supply chain person. It just kind of
yeah.
happened. And I was really good at it because I could predict problems. And that made me, a little bit ahead of the game because I could make sure stuff kept going. But yeah, I didn't plan on being in this industry. But now that I'm in it, I don't think I could work anywhere else.
No, exactly. Actually,
Mm-mm.
I don't know if you know, I studied law, actually. And then one day I realized I would be a
You started
really
what?
law, legal
Oh,
lawyer.
legal law.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you never
No,
told
no,
me
no.
this.
Yeah, that's what I studied. And then one day I realized I would be a very average, at best, lawyer, right? And I hate average, right? So I
Right.
thought I need to look for something that I could
That you can
actually be
excel
good at,
in. You would
right?
have been a good lawyer.
Sorry?
You would have been a good lawyer.
No, no, right? You can ask all my professors; they would confirm no,
No.
right?
You were trying that. So I did not know that. Very interesting that you're going to go into law and then you ended up in supply chain. You're not the first person I've heard that from, by the way.
Yeah.
Lots of people fall into supply chain when they don't even expect it. So what do you think what do you think is causing all these shortages? So we have people who don't want to continue in the business. So they get into the jobs, they quit because they don't want to do it anymore. It's too stressful. We know that supply chain is high stress. What else do you think that's causing it? Why are we having a shortage in staff?
Yeah, obviously, you're asking that question because you know it's a great question, right? You know what? I haven't gotten to the bottom of that one really yet, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could say like, oh, it's young people.
Don't
They're
want to
not used to
work
hard
and
work, blah blah blah, right?
yep.
I think that's wrong, right? They do want to work, right?
Yeah.
So you know what? For the time being, the best explanation I can offer is actually, so for a start, obviously, we don't have as many people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
In the
mean, we
workforce.
can have, our generation is like, oh, baby boomers and so on. You have thousands
Yeah.
of people looking for work and so on and so
Yep.
on. You don't have as many people, right?
Yeah.
And you, especially when you look at junior positions, right? And I
Yes.
think that's probably something I see as well, especially junior positions, right? Again, like, so maybe a generational thing. So our generation, like, so you, at least in Europe, right? If you studied at university, not many people studied, not the majority studied
Yeah.
at university, right? And therefore, the majority of the people didn't, and they were just used to like, okay, yeah, one day I have to find a job, right? And that might be in an office, and then I have to work my way up, blah blah blah, and so on, right? So you had a steady supply to junior positions. I don't know in percentages, but many more people are getting a university degree,
Yep.
right? And do they want to start as a forklift driver? No, of course not,
Mm-mm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, right? I mean,
I
also
think I
they
agree.
can't find the high flying positions either, right? Because
Yeah.
they're not there either, right?
Yeah, because they don't have any experience. So
Right.
when you and I came up in the industry, there were not degrees in supply chain. There were no degrees in supply chain when I was going through university. You had degrees in manufacturing, you had degrees in chemical manufacturing, you had degrees in engineering, but there were no supply chain degrees when I went through college. So if you wanted to start in supply chain, you started at the bottom, like I did. So I started as a telex operator. If
Yeah.
y'all don't know what a telex is, this is before we had cell phones and it was a satellite communication that was just one step up from Morse code. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. And that's where I started. And I'm a terrible typist. If anybody knows me, and this is part of the reason why I can't spell, is because you have to type in shorthand when you do telexes. And so that's where I started, was sending telexes. I did that for 18 months before
Mhm.
I got my first job as not it wasn't even import manager, it was an import clerk, and I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
managing the
Yeah.
paperwork. Yeah, that was it. And then it just, and it was probably 5 years before, and I had a college degree, not in supply chain, but it was probably 5 years before I got a manager title.
It's of no us talking about this or saying like how it used to be. It's obviously, unfortunately, it's completely useless for anyone who's in
No.
this industry now, right?
Well, no, I don't think it's completely useless because here would be my message was be like, start at the bottom. Stop
I
trying to
think,
come in as the CSO, right? Stop trying to be the chief supply chain officer, which is what I see. Because now
yeah,
that we have degrees in supply chain, right? And all in the US, I'm sure in Europe you have the same thing. All the big universities MIT and Harvard and all those guys have their big supply chain programs. And people come out of there and they're like, I just came out of MIT supply chain program. I should be a CTO. No, go drive a forklift.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
No,
you can't learn anything. The thing is
I,
that supply chain is hands-on learning. I don't care what anybody tells you.
I think we will, whether we like it or not, or whether anyone likes it or not, we'll have to go back to to that approach at some point. And hopefully people will be a little bit nicer to clerks than they used to be when we started.
Right. And I think that's what I loved about supply chain when I first got in it, was because it was kind of a level playing field, right? Everyone kind of came in the same way, unless you're related to somebody. Everybody kind of came in the same way. You started at the bottom and you worked your way up. There was no this sort of insertion in the middle with a degree, right? That didn't exist. So it was kind of a level playing field for everyone. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, we're going to have to go back to that. And for the people out there who are getting your big fancy degrees and spending lots of money on them, good for you. It will be good for you, and there will be advantages. But you don't know jack shit. Okay? You just came out of college. You don't know shit. Okay? Until you can drive a forklift.
I love your clarity. Absolutely. Right. So no, definitely. Definitely. Actually,
But we've
also,
run into it. Like, you and I have run into it, right? Where we have run into situations where people who have big degrees feel like they know more than we do because we don't have big degrees. But you and I have moved mountains, and we know
yeah.
how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's actually there's one thing is I checked something out because I'm as you know I'm a curious person, right? Because
Mhm.
obviously with all this staff shortage and so on,
Yes.
what you find a lot, actually you don't find any of what we just said on the internet, right? But what you do find is that, of
Which is
course,
why we're blowing up, by the way.
so, so what you do find, of course, that things like AI will help, right?
Yes. No.
So I thought and I'm not a 100% tech guy, right? But I thought I'll give this a try and do a truck route, right, using AI, right? And it was hilarious. It was absolutely, it's like I couldn't stop laughing. Actually, I posted this on LinkedIn as well. So what I entered was, and it's the point is like, how good does the data need to be like for AI? And the
Yeah.
answer is it needs to be very good. So anyway, I entered a prompt and said, okay, I need a route, a ferry from European mainland to a port north in the UK, and I need to go to Edinburgh. I need to go to a small town, Scottish town called Oban,
Okay.
and that was it, right? So kind of not too difficult, I would think, right? So anyway, I got the friendly AI asked me if I wanted a map, and I said yes, please. So I got a map, and the north of England had somewhat slipped down to kind of a London area, and Edinburgh, which is on the east coast of Scotland, had moved to the UK's west coast to about Liverpool area, right?
What?
And the small town of Oban, which is located on Scotland's northwest coast, was placed right next to Dublin in the Republic of Ireland. That was my truck routing map. So,
This is why this is so scary, because people without experience, right, in supply chain, degree or no degree, are going to hop on these AIs and gonna be like, well, this knows best because this is the latest, greatest technology. And it's going to fail because they don't have the experience to know better.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? And it's like the point for me was all about data. I just entered the city
Yeah.
names, right,
Yeah.
which should be good enough,
Not the zip codes.
right?
Yeah.
So, and then zip codes doesn't work either. It's slightly better, but not great, right? And then I entered longitude and latitude. And that finally produced a map that put the places where they actually are, right? So good data, good result, right? But you need to know what good data is and what isn't, right? And that's where the
Wow.
experience comes in.
Yeah. And so
Right?
you're bringing up a really good point, and I want to touch on this for a minute before we hang up for today. Is AI, right? Because everybody is talking about AI. AI is everywhere right now. Everybody is selling it. Everybody is believing in it. In the United States, I don't know if you have issues over there. It's being a real problem with people, emotionally getting involved with the AI. It's becoming a real issue here. But here's the thing that everybody has to understand about AI. You have to teach it. It's
Yeah,
not born smart. You have
yeah,
to educate it, which means it is an engine, which is a structure of software that data is pumped into that it then uses to create quote unquote intelligence, right? But you
mhm,
have to teach it. And in your example is a great example of an AI tool was not properly populated. It
yeah.
wasn't able to do what you did because it didn't have zip code, it didn't have city names, it only had longitude, latitude. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought anyway, I've got a new business idea now. I will do an online travel agency, and all the routings, your travel plans will be AI generated, right? And I promise you, you will
It'll
have
be fabulous.
it will be a fabulous experience,
It's
right?
gonna be very exciting.
Yeah, it's like the only thing that will come close is you being on drugs,
Yeah.
right? So it's like,
It's a drug-like experience without the drugs.
yeah, exactly, right.
Fabulous. That's awesome. Well, Torsten, as always, thank you for sharing what's going on in the EU and your very educated and very experienced perspective on what's going on in logistics in general. But interesting perspective on can't get enough people to drive those forklifts.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
All
Thanks
right.
a
Thanks,
lot.
Torsten. Chat soon.
Thank you. Bye.